What's poppin', y'all? They got Hot 97 up out of here. I'm going to cover that as well. I'm milking this whole situation, frankly. Now, I really do think there needs to be 3 separate videos on it to touch on each topic. But here we're going to talk specifically about Rosenberg and his back and forth with Drake. Now, what happened was the show gets canceled, right? Ebro, Laura Stiles, and Rosenberg, they've had this Hot 97 morning show, radio show, syndicated radio show in New York for God knows how long. There are so many legendary moments like the Uzi interview, even from you go back to Tyler the Creator interview, there's been a lot. But Rosenberg just behaving like a big old baby, man. So what happens? These guys have been cooking Drake. Let's just say Rosenberg is one of the biggest glazers of Kendrick Lamar of all time. I mean, there's a Lupe Fiasco clip that I may look for and try to put in this video where he talks to him about Kendrick Lamar. If I can't find it, I can't find it.
Lupe Fiasco says that Rosenberg is a nut hugger of Kendrick Lamar.
God.
Like he has been on your sack too hard, too long.
Do you see this video? Do you see when Lupe said this?
I heard about it.
He did.
What'd you say about that, man? How you feel about that?
I don't agree with that. I don't know. You just like the music, right?
I mean, thank you. I am a man who supports good music, and I'm going to be... A lot of people are upset that I made the right call.
But there, he's like, yo, you're a D-rider. And he's showing a lot of support to Kendrick Lamar from very, very early on in his career. But these guys were one of the groups of people that were on the head top of Drake when it wasn't looking too hot. Ebro called him a sickness in the culture, etc. So, when their show gets axed, what happens? Drake comments an axe emoji. That's it. All he did was comment an axe emoji, and they got up in arms. Guess what Rosenberg's response was? Let me read this for you guys right now. It's behavior like this that's made it impossible for people to defend the whack-ish that he does. ... But happy Hanukkah, my one-time pal. I truly wish you well, even if you're celebrating what you believe is our demise. Spoiler alert, we're about to be much bigger now that we won't be held back by a company that is and has been completely lost ever since they bought the station. This guy commented an axe emoji, by the way. And this account actually made me remember what Rosenberg had been on when it came to Drake. So I'm going to play you guys this clip of what happened earlier this year.
No, I'm talking about like, I'm talking about if something, I don't know, man.
Right.
Like,
he said liable, so that's lawsuit.
In that case, I mean lawsuit. But right. I'm saying if God forbid, like this was the moment that was so embarrassing for Drake that it sent him to some bad sort of spin, right? Would that fall back on all the people that were involved in?
Well, I got news for you. If they try that, meanwhile, Drake, at your shows, you're changing lyrics to songs and saying, y'all couldn't kill me, I didn't die. And also walking around with bullet holes in your sweatshirt with smoke coming out the back. So
he said beef is live.
Beef is live. He says beef is live. Mm-hmm. I'm not dead. They couldn't kill me.
Yeah.
So he's still leaning in. So at what point is it now, like, what are we doing here? Like, you don't want this to go away either, bro.
No, this is up.
So these guys were alluding to Drake potentially, exiting off of this planet with us, potentially, because of how much of an embarrassing moment that this was at the Super Bowl for Drake. And keep in mind, this guy was being called the worst things you can imagine, right? He was being labeled as a certified PDF. It was just so bad. You couldn't get worse slander than this. And I've always said, it's a sucker move. Drake's suing is a sucker move. Still, that doesn't negate it. But it also doesn't dismiss how bad the accusations were and all of these platforms being like, they're just laughing at the situation. And Rosenberg is doing this thought experiment that this caused Drake to spiral out of control. Yet Drake drops an axe emoji, which he should be celebrating your downfall. Absolutely. And then you're throwing this whole tantrum over it. So there's that, and these guys were cool at one point, but what I really want to cover is the delusion of Rosenberg, because I've covered this for a very, very long time. I don't know Rosenberg personally. I have never met him. I have never had any type of interaction with him, but the guy, what we've seen him exhibit in public is a lot of sucker activity, to be fair. Now, I will say, when it comes to hip-hop artists and rap, this guy's a huge fan. He's a huge supporter. He's given a lot of up-and-coming upcoming artists a platform when he had influence. Like early 2010s, Rosenberg's show, keep in mind, Rosenberg's show had a lot of influence. He also had the first hip hop podcast, and he would constantly talk about, no, well, actually, guys, I had the first hip hop podcast. Meanwhile, you had people come after him, Combat Jack, who passed away quite a while ago, but he kind of like revolutionized, or he took it to the next level. And that's where Adam 22 and a lot of people had respect for Combat Jack. Also, Tax Stone became known as a hip hop podcast for a certain amount of time. And then, of course, No Jumper and so on and so forth after that. But he's like, yo, why don't I get my credit? Well, he doesn't get his credit, even though he was the first, because he never became the premier podcast. And that's because Rosenberg is just not entertaining. Let's keep it real. The entertainment value is really in Ebro for that show. And I'm not going to get into that. That's a separate topic. But with Rosenberg, what I really want to cover is we're about to be much bigger now that we won't be held back by a company. This is so delusional, I can't even describe it. They are going to be bigger. The reason why they've even remained as big as they are, which is quite embarrassing how big they are, quote unquote, is because they've been being held up by a company. Not held back, they've been held up by a company. Like, for instance, when you take a look at Ebro currently, he's working at Apple Music. He got the opportunity to interview Kendrick Lamar, Nadeska as well. If they had to come out in the open market, which is YouTube content, etc., and compete with everybody else, what's going to happen? We saw a couple of other people try it. For example, Wayno, I would say Wayno is different because Wayno came on Everyday Struggle, and a lot of people didn't know him before as a personality that gives his opinions and stuff. He had been in the industry. But Wayno, he's out here in these streets getting it. He's out here on the block. He's selling his product, and people mess with him. Like, Wayno's got some motion. Now, he's got a different audience than most people, but he's doing his thing. And people have so many others to choose from. And I'll give you another example, not a Rosenberg example, but the show, was it called The Bigger Picture? The DJ Head Show. The DJ Head Show with Elliot Wilson. Elliot Wilson, some guy that he was constantly trying to get new deals. Like, for example, he had Rap Radar with B-Dot, and then him and B-Dot had a separating, and they were like, yo, if somebody's got a deal on the table, I'll take it. For a while, Elliot Wilson was working with Tidal, and he's just been one of these people that's constantly waiting for a deal, constantly waiting for not a handout, because he has established himself in the industry for decades. So it's expected for someone to have that mentality of like, yo, give me a deal and then we'll work something out. But he got this show and he abandoned or parted ways with B-Dot to do that show with Jeremy Hecht and DJ Head. That show gets canceled because it doesn't make any money. But all three of those, and Elliot Wilson, he's out there, he's trying to put out content. Now, solo, and this is the problem. With Elliot Wilson, what holds him back is thinking that he needs to have some sort of environment around him to do this. I mean, he does want to compete with the younger guys. People feel like he hates on Casanat, and to a degree, I feel that way as well. To a degree, limited degree, of course. But you have Rosenberg, who has had his podcast and has been consistently doing this for, 15 years? And I'm not going to say his podcast sucks because I don't listen to it, but it's not comparable to anything out in the sphere. There are 100 other people that cover hip-hop, a minimum of 100 people that cover hip-hop on YouTube that got more emotion than Rosenberg, who's been here for 15 years and has all of the connections and is able, like recently he had Rakim as a guest on his show. So this guy's getting lapped by everybody when his content has to compete against other people. And this is where I don't think he understands what's going on and what's not going to happen, which is they're not going to be bigger than they were. Because what's going to happen? Or why have they been so big? They were on a syndicated radio show. So how many options do people have on the radio anyway? Not many. So when your options are limited and the supply is static, which is the supply of, you have millions of people in the tri-state area, New York, wherever the radio show is playing, and you're one of 2 to 3 options, of course, you're going to have a high view count or a listener count, whatever the case may be. But when you throw them on to YouTube and they have to compete with everybody else with the same amount of viewers in terms of not the 6, 7, 8 million, however much is in New York, but the hundreds of millions that watch hip hop content, it's less than 10 million, I would say, that actively watch this type of stuff. When you have to compete with hundreds of other channels as well, then it doesn't really hold up. And you can see that it doesn't hold up because if you pull up Hot 97's YouTube channel, it doesn't really hit like that. I mean, just look at their live streams. These guys did a live. Their lives are doing 1K, 2K, 3K, and most of these clips are from Ebro. And some people say, well, it's because their audience is on, their audience is on radio. It's a different audience. You can't really say that because their competitors, The Breakfast Club, Power 105, they do numbers. Now, do they do guest dependent? Their numbers vary. But, I mean, you look at the Breakfast Club full show on December 12th, 2025, and that got 17,000. And then let's take a look at the most recent full show of Hot 97. How much did that get? From 1.2K. So there's like 10 plus a lot more. Well, actually, no, this is a different show. That wasn't, there was a Tri-State of Mind show, which is different. But they're doing a lot less. Well, let's just put it that way. Even in clips where you have an Ebro, for instance. So these guys are just not hitting, and they're used to the propping up by this major company, and that's why they think they're going to be bigger. What is going to change with you signing with another company? Because right now you have to compete. What is Ebro, Rosenberg, and Laura Stiles doing as a unit that is more entertaining, more insightful, more unique, more faster than any other platform that you can potentially think of? And the truth is, nothing really, other than their set, their quality, all of that other stuff, which does not matter. None of that stuff matters anymore. What matters is how good is your content, how much do people want to watch it. And you being with a new company under a new deal is not going to change that unless they potentially juice your numbers. And this is with these guys being able to get big guests. Like, some people are just talking and they don't even have a guest and they're doing more numbers than them. And that's why I think Rosenberg still hasn't learned, because they think that it's a company thing. It's not a company thing. It's a you thing. Your show would not have been cut if you're the hottest thing on air. It wouldn't. And that's why when you see somebody like a Charlemagne who went out and did his own thing, his podcast is booming. And when he shows up on other places, it's booming. When Rosenberg shows up on other platforms, is it booming? Not really. And I don't know what other platforms he's shown up on, but like, for example, an easy way to see how popping someone is put them somewhere else. Like, you take a Traplo Ross, for instance, and you put him on a Vlad interview, it's going to do numbers. A 1090 Jake, it does numbers, depending on the topics, of course, but a person like Vlad knows how to ask the right topics that are going to engage the audience and what they want to see the guest talk about. I don't know about 1090 Jake right now, because I don't know if he's like as hot as he... I haven't seen any recent videos, but a lot of it is, you guys get my point. There was a period of time when 1090 Jake was the hottest thing smoking. Charlemagne has consistently been that. Academics, you put him on a bunch of different platforms, it's going to do numbers. You take an Ebro and you put him on a bunch of different platforms, which they wouldn't appear on anyway, but you guys get my point. It's really not going to hit because people don't care as much about them. It's just the convenience of them being on the radio, them being the only station, and people just getting familiar with them over time. But are they really fans of you? No, you can see that by your Juan Epstein podcast. It's not hitting like that. And the sooner that Rosenberg realizes there is no, we're going to be much bigger after this event happens, and he starts figuring out, hey, what can I do to adjust? What can I do to get more motion going? The sooner he will be able to actually succeed and compete. But frankly, that's never going to happen. The guys, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And he's old mentally, not just in the physical aspect of being old, because he doesn't realize that he doesn't really got it like that. Like, for example, I'll give you guys a perfect example. We've seen people reinvent themselves when things got stale. Like, for example, Fousey, he hopped into the streaming game, and and brought that same level of energy and chaoticness. Whoa, is that? Well, I'm not going to go through an English lesson in front of you guys right now. That's a little bit embarrassing. But he brought that same level of chaos and ups and downs into streaming, and he went crazy on there. You had people like Aiden Ross that have consistently had to reinvent. So even people at the top of the game, they need to switch things up. Like, you can't just sit down and talk to somebody and podcast because you've been doing that for 15 years and nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is your show got canceled. And this is the thing. If these guys and who's going to give them a deal? That's the thing. They don't realize that, the era of deals is over. That Spotify era, it's over. They were just trying to get more users. After they've got the users, they're looking at it like, all right, why would we pay to bring you on here? What are you going to bring? People want users, people want signups, etc. Joe Budden was ahead of all of these guys, and they try to hate on him, but Joe Budden, he knew. He was at the forefront. And that's the thing. Well, Rosenberg is not like a Joe Budden. That's the thing. Rosenberg cannot exist alone. He needs to exist as a balance to somebody. So if it was, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Rosenberg can do, but I am interested in being proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong, actually. Like, if I don't believe that someone will do well, and it's not a hating type of I don't want them to do well, but just objectively speaking, in what dimension or what has to happen for you guys to be like, yo, I need to see that new Rosenberg? And not you guys, but just the general public. I can't think of anything that has to happen. Maybe like some crazy exclusive interviews, maybe some unique levels of content. Complex is another example of people that keep reinventing. They switch things up. They saw Everyday Struggle. They were like, okay, this is not hitting. Let's bring in some new shows. Let's try some new stuff. You know, the whole sneaker shopping thing became a thing. Like, what does, like, you have this intersection of wrestling and WWE. Like, yo, just introducing the crossover of wrestling, WWE, and rappers, and short form content would kill it for Rosenberg. But he can't think like that. He's a dinosaur. And he's just thinking, oh, you know, the new deal, this company's going to stop holding us back. The next company's really going to make sure we do well. This is like a rapper that's ice cold. Nobody wants new music from them. And then they're like, yeah, man, you know, once I get out this deal, I get a new label. They're going to make sure to push me and I get some motion. No, you need to push yourself. But yeah, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see you on the next one.